What she wanted to say?
What you want? This is an explanation about what is net neutrality and why does it matter. Basically, internet has become well, it's almost like a public service. Net neutrality must guarantee that that it's equally accessible by anyone, and that no traffic on that network is controlled or tampered with for economic gain. So if we can maintain net neutrality, we can make sure that everybody has equal access. But if we start to allow people who own part of that infrastructure to tamper with it, then it might be possible that some content might not be available to us anymore. That some like internet service provider will not allow us to see YouTube anymore, because basically YouTube is taking up too much of their bandwidth. They need to invest more money in order to cater for so many people wanting to watch YouTube movies at the same time without paying anything more. So basically, net neutrality is what should guarantee countries like China not to block certain content and not to block access to Google, not to block access to Facebook.
Why?
Why? Basically, because we don't want our government or private enterprises to tamper with the access to certain kinds of content. You could say, okay, well then just change your ISP, but that is not what the internet is supposed to be about. It should be access to everyone. Now with IoT, that becomes even more important, because an ISP, the owner of part of the internet infrastructure, should theoretically be capable of actually blocking off even access to the energy grid or to other applications. So net neutrality must make sure that we have access and that we have performance. But
China case is different reason, right?
China case is not a different reason.
But China has the same function of Facebook or YouTube.
Right, but it doesn't give access to Google.
No.
No. So that basically China is tampering with what their citizens can and cannot see.
This is because of they prohibit Google because of what's the reason of they prohibit Google?
Well, I think one of the reasons that Google has been critical about the Chinese government. Another reason, and I think a maybe even more important reason, is that they want to grow their own industry. So they are creating
protection, right?
Yeah, they are actually creating a market for Chinese players to develop themselves. Alibaba maybe could not have become so big if they wouldn't have been protected from the likes of eBay to actually set foot on Chinese soil. So they are outright protecting their domestic market. From
I understand, but what is this message?
The message here is that without net neutrality, it will be possible for people who own the infrastructure to tamper with what we can and cannot see and at which speeds. Net neutrality will be important because internet access to basically anything needs to be guaranteed. If we cannot guarantee net neutrality, then it's a very big risk in the future for the value of our network. The value of a network is basically to provide access, to provide possibilities, but at the same time it needs to be paid for.
But I'm curious, how come there's so many providers in the market?
How come?
Yeah, like for example, San Francisco, they consider for the whole San Francisco going to be free Wi-Fi, right?
All right.
Yeah, but why are there going to many Wi-Fi companies here?
So why well, there are not that many in Japan, for example. There's only 3 big players, I think. How many?
No, provider,
yeah,
right?
SoftBank.
Provider is just...
NTT?
no. Is it NTT?
KDDI?
Okay.
KDDI, SoftBank, and NTT. They are the main ISPs, and then there are other ISPs, but they are basically just piggybacking of the infrastructure that is owned by NTT, KDDI, and SoftBank. And now Rakuten is becoming a provider. They have been awarded infrastructure, but what if you live, for example, if you live in Iwate and you only have access to one provider because there's no coverage by any other provider, so there is no possibility. So you're completely dependent on that. So you, for your internet access, you need to depend on NTT. Now, what if NTT would decide not to provide you with Google anymore? Well, that's a serious limitation.
That slide shows Facebook won. Why Facebook won? What this C means?
Facebook won.
Facebook is bigger guys win.
So basically, with net neutrality, it's possible that smaller players can come up like that and leverage the infrastructure because it's open, because it's accessible to anyone. So Mark Zuckerberg from his dorm room could create Facebook and actually challenge an established platform like MySpace with almost zero means, just leveraging an infrastructure that he didn't pay for, almost zero marginal cost. He was capable of creating a competitor to MySpace, and now has a company that is worth almost $70 billion. So that is something that net neutrality guarantees. So if you had, basically you cannot prefer or unprefer certain providers. So Netflix was an example. Netflix basically used the fact that there is net neutrality and start to stream a streaming video service. It's not so expensive because they didn't have to pay for the bandwidth that the service providers are creating. But if a lot of people start to use Netflix, that will put a big strain on their infrastructure. So that will force ISPs to invest even more in their physical infrastructure. So that will basically drives up the costs, and Netflix is not going to pay for it. That's the other side. That's the reverse side of the medal. So they could say, well, sorry, everybody who wants to see all traffic from Netflix. Without net neutrality, they can say all traffic from Netflix, people who want to see that, we will put a break on it. We will make sure that we will we will not allow for more than this amount of bandwidth that we allocate for Netflix users, and that could lead to a serious decrease in performance of the content served by Netflix. What if an ISP like Docomo starts to their own Netflix service? They can say, well,
because currently net speed is the same for every provider.
Right. No, what I said, not for every provider, but for every user on that network, it's the same.
But
So it doesn't matter they
on
cannot discriminate between, for example, we give more bandwidth to Google than we give to Facebook and or Yahoo, for example. They cannot do that.
Like I switching contract for the internet, provider.
Right.
From the different company because of the former company so slow.
Right.
How come so slow?
Well, that has to do sometimes with very simple economics, where the provider is basically a reseller. So if it's not directly NTT, but I don't know,
Like
company Y Mobile or whatever.
my condominium, 34th floor, some Wi-Fi provider, they don't have antenna.
Right.
Right?
That's possible.
Large company can deliver the waves to 34th floor.
Right. But also these companies, they are sometimes they're buying bandwidth, right? So they just buy a pipe to the internet, and if that bandwidth is not sufficient for the number of customers they get, then basically it becomes congested. And if there is a physical limitation on the pipe, you cannot, if it would be oil, for example, you cannot go beyond the maximum capacity of the diameter of the oil pipeline. That's basically the maximum that can go through. So if that starts to increase, then you reach the physical limitations of the speed.
That's the reason why at night speed is getting so slow.
Yeah, and it's a problem that's actually coming up. It will become a very big problem. Like also Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi becomes so prevalent that everywhere is Wi-Fi, and there are so many devices that are also using Wi-Fi infrastructure. Now, what we see is that there is a lot of interference, like a correlation between networks, and data starts to collide, and you have like Wi-Fi blind spots where you cannot actually receive Wi-Fi data. We see this, for example, in our share houses where 20 people at the same time stay. In principle, they have a good connectivity with the internet, so they have a optic fiber connection. But because of this interference and a lot of people watching movies, etc., at the same time, you see it completely slow down at night. It's a big problem because everybody expects good connectivity.
Why the Wi-Fi does not get free?
Why does it not get free?
Some places in Tokyo are free, right?
Right.
Why they are not free for that?
Well, there's a cost involved, but marginal cost not so much. But the investments that being made in the physical infrastructure need to be paid back. Right? They need to put cables in the ground. They need to put transmitters on roofs and on poles that need to be paid for. The people who install them need to be paid. So this is not free.
はい、皆さんこんにちは、雲野です。今日はですね、雲野塾の研修のプログラムをご紹介したいと思います。で、こういうふうなホームページありますけれども、ぜひですね、一度中身をご覧になっていただきたいと思います。今日はブーキューブさんのスタジオに来て、この収録をしておりますので、中身はこういうふうになってて、今最近ホットなね、グローバルリーダーの定義など書いてあります。で、特に経団連が作成しました留学すれば英語ができて専門性を持つというだけではですね、グローバルリーダーになれないとここに書いてありますようにですね、仕事ができる専門性を持つ英語ができるだけじゃなくてですね、私どもの塾ではリベラルアーツということと、それからもう一つは孫子の兵を、さらにはですね、日本の歴史というものを合わせて教えることによって皆さんが海外の欧米の方々と、もしくは華僑圏の方々と正々堂々と渡り合えるような人物を育成しようというふうなことを考えています。ここに次のスライドが出ておりますけれども、ここに書いてありますのはですね、さらに、私どもの雲野塾の中身につきましてはですね、欧米の資料しか使っておりません。また実際に雲野塾は英語でやっておりますので、英語の講師がこう話しておりますけど、学習はですね、日本の歴史をまだ教えてますので、学習の午後はですね、日本のプログラムをしております。以前はこれ有料だったので、今はですね、実際に会場費も取っていただいておりませんで、毎回5000円ということで、朝9時から午後5時までやっておりますので、ぜひ皆さんですね、ご検討の上ご参加いただければと。英語のできない方もですね、 各週の午後こういうふうな検証をしておりますので、ぜひご参加いただければというふうに思っておりますので、よろしくお願いします。でここにさらにですね、グループ討議とか実務の勘どころを教えると書いてありますけど、実際には私が10年ほどですね、欧米の新聞とか雑誌等をですね集めてきた、もともと英語のベースでございますので、そうしたものをですね50セッションのテーマに分けて資料作成しております。そういうことで、世界のオペレーション、もしくはカントリーリスクも含めてですね、しかも世界のトップの方々に対してもいろいろな分析とか洞察をしてですね議論をしております。そういったことも含めてですね、今後ともよろしくお願いしたいと思います。以上で私の挨拶を終えますが、今回のこのビデオの収録にあたってはですね、V キューブさんのスタジオをお借りしてですね、お時間を頂戴して、このビデオを作成させていただきました。よろしくお願いします。どうもありがとうございました。